Hello everybody, this is Kai Marin, and I certainly have some news for you today. So this is coming from Viz Media. Announcement: being mixed race in Japan like Kazumi means facing daily trials of racism, microaggressions, and otherness. This is a journey of resilience, hope, and the search for coexistence. Half is More Volume 1 by Yoiko Fujimi releases summer 2026. And then here's some more information. Mixed race Japanese drama Half is More by Fujimi Yoiko is getting an English release in summer 2026. Critically acclaimed human drama about mixed race people living in modern Japan's so-called hafu and their daily struggles. Now, the response to this has been something. You can stop and read some of these comments if you want. I would highly recommend you do. They're a bit politically incorrect. But it is Kino, though. Anyways, though, people are pretty skeptical seeing this, as they should be. Microaggressions using fake made-up libtard terms. Yeah, no, this is woke slop. Indeed. Wait. Jeez. Pretty convenient for this to take off around the same time corporations and hoodweebs demand blacks be represented in media, mainly about Japanese culture for Japanese people. All convenient, of course. Every time I see this shitty manga, I will now refer to it as boohoo nigga manga, because every fucking time it shares this ape-looking thing is crying or malding. I hate this so much. Give me strength, Hitler-san. Yeah, holy shit. She just looks like such a fucking bitch. Who the hell would read this? Like, actually, I know who would read this, and I'll show you guys later, but there's some pretty funny edits. Here's the anime adaptation. Anyways, though, so people are pretty hostile towards this, as they should be, okay? Like, this is obviously just woke garbage. You know, people have been talking about anime and manga becoming more woke, and that definitely is true to an extent. I don't think it's that bad yet. It could get way worse. Anime kind of just has a natural immunity, you know, a natural resistance just because of the way the industry is set up. And maybe I'll talk about that in a bit, but I don't really think this is a big deal. And look, there's some other examples of woke anime, like Lazarus actually, I would say, kind of counts, although Lazarus was a failure and boring as hell. But anyways, the whole thing is that, so this is coming out summer 2026. This manga is actually from 2022. And it has currently 1 volume. Okay, so it's been 3 years. It will be 4 years when the English one comes out. So 3 years, 1 volume. So this is basically a dead series. It presumably released, nobody bought it, and then it promptly died. All right? So the answer is that nobody in Japan wants to frickin' read this. And I mean, go figure. Get woke, go broke is kind of exaggerated, but is true to an extent. And by the way, just to sort of tell you about how bad this kind of thing is, like, a niche manga like this would have to sell at least, like, generally, like, 10,000 copies at least to be considered as a success. And 10,000 isn't exactly a ton. So there isn't even 10,000 leftist anime fans in Japan who were willing to buy this. So it literally just is a complete abject failure. Yet, it's getting a release in the West for some reason by Viz Media. You know, there's so many, you know, better manga series that are more popular, much more deserving of an English international release, and yet we get this. So yeah, like I said, anime and manga isn't necessarily going woke, but I mean, anime and manga publishing in the West certainly has. And like I said, it is kind of a white pill. Because, like I said, it is bullshit how this is getting released. It's kind of BS how it got made at all. But, like I said, ultimately money talks, at least, especially in Japan, and just kind of the way it's set up. Like I said, Japanese video games have definitely gone woke, but manga and anime haven't really, and I just think it's because of the way the industry works. You know, because a lot of these works are just made by, like, random people, you know, artists, and then they turn them into anime. And keep in mind, by the way, like, the people who are publishing the stuff, these companies are mostly run by, like, you know, Japanese businessmen types, right? And Japanese businessmen are pretty risk averse generally. It's kind of like a stereotype. So look, maybe they'll give something like this a chance. But I mean, as soon as it bombed, they're like, okay, pull it from all the shelves. Okay, we're done. Because the whole thing is woke media in the West and even in Japan, it needs to be subsidized because usually it doesn't make any money. You know, like one of the reasons why wokeness took over the way it did is because it was funded by a lot of these, by companies like BlackRock. Basically, giant investment firms would give companies money to make woke products. That's literally what was happening. And ultimately, the problem with that is that no matter how much investment money you get, you kind of still need to actually make money with your product. So if your product makes no money, then it kind of doesn't matter. And like I said, with anime and manga, it's even worse in this regard, which is why this stuff can't really take off. All right, you could never, ever get away with some hyper woke work like this in Japan. Because like I said, even if you try, nobody's going to buy it. And then if nobody buys it, you know, these publishers aren't going to keep publishing it just for the memes. You know, they actually want to make money. And anyways, though, yeah, this part's interesting. Pretty convenient for this to take off around the same time corporations and hoodweebs demand blacks to be represented in a media mainly about Japanese culture for the Japanese. All convenient, of course, yeah. I guarantee you that the reason why we're getting this series now is just because of a lot of the demands of the West, you know? No one actually wants this series. No one's going to buy it, but a bunch of loud people on Twitter are complaining, so you know how it happens. But yeah, this is funny. So, zero interest. It gets announced, people look it up, and then back down to nothing. All right, this is definitely a high-demand series that everybody loves and totally cares about. Yeah, there's another good meme for you. And I found the artist's Twitter. I heard apparently, I don't know, maybe this is a rumor, but I heard that she's, I think it's a girl, but apparently this person's like half French, half Indonesian. Which, I mean, go figure, right? Which kind of brings in, like, another issue. Like, my God. Shit. This is so ugly. Well, look, this kind of brings up another issue I find kind of interesting. Because as anime becomes more international, there's clamoring to sort of have anime to sort of turn it into sort of an international, like, industry. So this is from Kadokawa, which is one of the biggest manga publishers in Japan. Not all manga has to be from Japan. Alright, major manga publisher Kadokawa looks for new manga artists overseas amidst labor shortages. This is total bullshit. There's no shortage of manga artists in Japan. I guarantee it. And this is something I'm very, very against. Alright, because one of the reasons why I like anime and manga is because it's Japanese. And I really don't think that, in general, foreigners are able to replicate the style, you know, the aesthetic, the feel of anime and manga. I just think they can, you know, maybe they can make some stuff that's anime inspired, that's good, but they really can't replicate it. And of course, this also opens the door to just getting lots of woke garbage, which of course is going to happen because the West is woke as fuck. And look, there are some examples of, like, non-Japanese manga. Like, Hollow Fields is a good example. I remember I read this. The story's kind of complicated, but I was in the Kyoto Manga Museum, which is actually really cool. It's basically like a museum, but then there's also, it's mostly a library that's filled with manga everywhere. And they had some English language manga, so I read this one because it was there. Even though it's not actually a manga, it's written by some Australian chick. And I could kind of tell when I was reading that even though I didn't even realize that it wasn't actually a Japanese work at first, I could just tell just by the way it felt, the way the writing was. It just felt foreign. It didn't capture the same feel. When I found out after the fact that it was written by by a Western girl, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But, you know, there are examples of foreigners nailing it, like Blue Archive is a great example. But then again, this was made by Korean weebs, presumably. This was made by Korean weebs, so it's a little bit different. And there are examples of it going seriously wrong, like with High Guardian Spiced. Remember this show? Oh my God, I don't think they could have written... I can't believe they still have this on Crunchyroll. They should just save themselves the embarrassment and remove it. How... See, this is the whole thing. Anime and manga isn't woke, but anime and manga publishing 100% is. So one of the main selling points of Crunchyroll is like, oh, if you get our streaming service, then you'll be able to support anime creators. And then what did they actually spend the money on? Making a garbage Western TV series, like cartoon series. Something so bad, not even Cartoon Network would air it. And anyways, though, there are some other good examples, though. Like No Game, No Life, actually, the author for this series was half Brazilian, half Japanese, although they lived most of their life in Japan. So, look, there are some good examples. So, there are some various examples, but, look, generally, letting the manga industry, the anime industry, become international is something I'm very against, and I think it could only lead. I don't think it would lead to anything good. But anyways, though, like I said, this is kind of doesn't really matter that much. I'm sure when they release it in the West, it'll bomb. Like, it's the whole thing. Woke media just doesn't do well, especially super woke media like this. Because, I mean, look, I'll give you another example. Like, this is kind of funny. Validate. I wanted to make a video about this. I still might. But this is pretty much the wokest visual novel dating sim you could ever even imagine. And I'm not even exaggerating. This is so... If you told me to make a woke parody game, it would be less woke than this. And look, 87 reviews. Which means it probably didn't even sell 10,000 copies, which for an indie game of this caliber is pretty bad. And you can tell it was bad because apparently it was supposed to get like 2 more episodes, and they just never came out. So the devs literally just took the money and ran. And look, it's the same kind of thing with whatever the hell this is, Half is More. Like this is woke-ass media that nobody actually wants to read. But anyways, that's kind of about it for that topic, at least. Like I said, I don't really care. And I mean, like I said, I don't really think it's a big deal. Like, this is getting released in the West because Viz Media is woke. And that's all there is to it. This was made in Japan because there was a leftist in Japan who wrote this. And, whatever, a publisher decided to give them a chance. And that was it. So I don't really, like I said, anime and manga is getting kind of woke. Maybe little bit by little bit. Video games for sure. But, for now it's not really that bad. And wokeness is kind of dying internationally a little bit. It's not really dying, but they're definitely toning stuff down. But interesting story, at least. Besides that, I got some other funny tweets here. So this is... Oh, fuck. Look at those flags. But I do love that new gen series are normalizing giving more focus to female leads. You dropped a bad take on anime when the community note's in Japanese. So, let's just read the community note. Manga has had many female protagonists since ancient times. This post seems to suggest that manga artists in the past looked down on women and have only recently made women protagonists for the sake of gender equality. This is incorrect. Most of them draw what they want to draw and don't draw what they don't want to draw. Princess Knight, Yawara, Sailor Moon, Rose of Versailles, Attack Number 1, Aim for the Ace, Glass Mask, Nosk of the Valley of the Wind, Card Capture Sakura. This is the whole thing. Like, I complain about tourists. This is a fucking tourist in the wild. Because this is the whole thing. Want to know what happens? This person only reads or only watches, shonen stuff. Because that's the most accessible. That's, like, the safest. And guess what? Shonen series are generally going to have male protagonists. Because shonen is explicitly made for frickin' boys, teenage boys, like 12 to 18, I think, right? So then, okay, reads a male boy-directed work and then complains that there's not enough women. This is kind of the stuff I mean. It's just kind of completely insane. And like I said, tourist in action, but... And look, even if we're talking just shonen, even though it's mostly male protagonists, there are still lots of, good female characters in shonen shows. But yeah, anyways, it's just crazy. The ignorance is insane, Because this is the whole thing. And now they're turning into like a political statement. They come in here, they know nothing about the medium. And then they make like these grand statements. Like there's some kind of like freaking legendary hero or something. Let me see, what else do I got here? Oh yeah, Sun and Moon still has the hottest Poke girls. Yeah, so this is the new Pokemon character in the new game or whatever. People are talking about this. Pokemon's been getting woke for a while. And the funny thing about this is that this design definitely kind of does feel like they had a white girl. and then they just made her black. I know, like, a lot of characters are like this, and a lot of, like, leftists are really celebrating this character for some reason. Like, she's genuinely one of the most beautiful Pokemon characters ever. I don't even think she'd be in top 30. She's not that nice. And also, whatever. And besides that, not when they keep whining about the same 6 characters that annoy them. They won't. It's always Shonen that needs fixing. Nobody is trying to fix Shoujo. Only Shonen. Yeah, this is in response to this. Fixing only ever goes one way. These tourists tell on themselves constantly. That's the whole thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you know, Shonen series having a male focus, right? Because it's literally made for boys. And yet they demand that it changes, you know? This is the whole thing, like how you get these leftists. They really are like parasites, like cultural colonialists. Because they go into something that isn't actually directed for them at all. Then they demand it change to fit their tastes, you know? And you see this in the West a lot. Like, Star Wars is probably the best example. Like, Star Wars was always supposed to be more of a boys series, you know? It's sci-fi. You know, it's about frickin' battles in space. You know, you got the Jedi who are like frickin' samurai or whatever. You know, sword fights with lasers. Like, it's a very boy And look, girls can like Star Wars 100%. But the target audience was always going to be males, you know? And yet, you know, when Disney gets their hands on Star Wars, when they make episode 7, oh, what do? They give us a female lead. They give us a female Jedi and Rey. Because, you know, the Force is female or whatever. You know, this is the kind of stuff I mean. You know, instead of, you know, letting Star Wars remain as a boy series for boys and there being nothing wrong with that, oh no, we gotta bring in the girls too. You know, same thing. There's nothing wrong with shonen being for boys. That's literally what it's supposed to be. If you want manga or anime with a girl with more female characters, read shoujo. You know? Yeah, though, it's insane. But yeah, that's kind of about it. But anyways, yeah, so comment down below your thoughts. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more content in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.